man, if people would just get started. And I was like, I feel so lucky to have just started on the path, because I'm like, man, I'm not going to quit. Where is that going to be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? What rooms am I going to be in? What people are going to be able to be around? What type of influence am I going to be able to have an impact in the world and actually make an actual difference? And so like what I would say is like, just get started, and it might not look like the way you want. Like you might not have a cool office like this. You might not have a cool podcast room or a Lambo or whatever, but like if you just get started, get in the game, get in the game, start finding people to network with, get close to. I would just say get started. Like don't worry about where the place you're starting from. Like it's amazing where you can get to when you just get in the game and start playing and play to win every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. I'm your host, The Bull. Today, I got a special treat for you guys. This is a guy who's become a real good buddy of mine. Actually, we met in Florida out at Funnel Hacking Live. This stud just happened to be speaking on stage in front of 6,000 people, all tuning in to listen to this dude, wanting to know what he was doing and how they could replicate what he was doing with his business. Braven Grant, thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I just said thanks for having me. But. Yeah. So to give everyone an idea, Braven Grant is a 23-year-old. He's a fitness enthusiast, just did a competition on stage, right? Which we could talk about that and how you did that. Like crazy time frame how he got on stage. Former college athlete. He's a husband to Shelly, new father to his son, Heber, and owner of an industry-shifting, whole food-based sports supplement company called Gains in Bulk. He started Gains in Bulk with his brother when he was only 17 years old and did multiple seven figures before the age of 22. What people don't understand, though, is that he was doing seven figures well before the time. What, you're 23 now, right? Mm-hmm. And you just got that 2 Comma Club award on stage with Funnel Hacking Live, but you were doing multiple seven figures even before that 2 Comma Club. Yeah. People don't even know that, right? Because I didn't even know that until we talked about it, right? So listen, man, everyone listening to this, they're thinking 23 years old, 7 figures in business. You own a supplement line. You're a former college athlete. You're speaking on stage in front of 6,000 people. That's a big fucking deal, right? But that doesn't come from anywhere, right? That doesn't just, happen, right? So what's your story, right? What made you who you are today?
Man, that's a really big question.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a super loaded question. I mean, I think we go a few different directions, but, first, thanks for having me.
Yep.
Like Jeremiah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Everyone obviously, thanks for being on my podcast, Jeremiah. Yeah. No, everyone obviously who's around you, it's like you're just like a gravitational leader. Like when I saw you at Funnel Hacking Live, that you had your whole crew, and it was like, I don't know, it was just cool to see you, and I appreciate being around people like you. So thanks, for having me up here.
I appreciate it.
But what has made me? I mean, I think ultimately the foundational piece of it, like if I had to say, hey, this is the reason I've been able to do anything successful, is I would say it's just come down to the influence of my family, and mainly even my father. We went through a lot growing up, but my dad's been an entrepreneur my whole life. So he was starting businesses well before I was even around or he had thought of me yet. But
always just been an entrepreneur, huh?
Yeah. So he'd been an entrepreneur. And, I'd seen his businesses do really well. There was a point when I was like 4 or 5 where he had, multiple planes and like big business. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like big deal. But then most of my life growing up, we didn't have much at all because, and so we could get into all of that too.
Well, hey, let's actually dive into that. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Did you just tell me that you went from having multiple, okay, you just said this, not multiple cars, you said multiple planes.
Yeah.
And then to having nothing.
Yeah.
What happened?
So this was like a super big story.
Sure.
So I don't know
how much you're willing to tell.
How much we want to go into it. I'm willing to share. It's really just, it's kind of a lot. But so my dad has started a few different companies, and when he was in his early 20s, he actually was working at a tire shop. So he had started a business, an auto business, and then he was working at a tire shop on the side to try and make money. And
right.
he He was newly married. So, and then anyways, he got hurt on the job and he actually got paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he like fell off a scaffolding onto his back and broke his back over like a tire that was on the ground, like fell like that. Anyways, so, and then through that process of getting paralyzed and doctors telling him, you know, there was really just nothing they could do and he started getting into like nutrition and health himself, just trying to figure out how to fix himself basically. So he started going to school, doing a whole bunch of stuff, and ultimately like fell in love with nutrition, which at the time was a little bit less of like the main. There was like chiropractic, there's physical therapy, there's doctors, but there wasn't a lot of people at the time preaching and teaching about like the importance of like your diet and nutrition, not as much as there is now. So anyways, so he ends up overcoming that, not being paralyzed anymore. He became
He went from being paralyzed to not
waist,
paralyzed.
Yeah, waist down, couldn't walk, couldn't feel his feet. Like they were like, you know, stab stuff in his feet, couldn't feel it. Like, yeah.
Okay, well, how did your dad go from being unparalyzed to paralyzed? Or excuse me, from like paralyzed to unparalyzed.
So, I mean, it was a lot of stuff. He was doing a ton of physical therapy work, and he's a big fan of like chiropractic and stuff like that, and even a little bit like what maybe some people think is like woo-woo medicine in a little bit of ways.
Well,
like,
what kind of woo-woo medicine?
Like
mushrooms? Or?
No, not mushrooms. Okay. Not that. Like, but just like more energy stuff. Like he really believes in energy and you know, frequencies and things like that.
Of course,
Anyway, so and then ultimately, like I guess the missing piece that he really fell in love with was the nutrition side of things. So really, he got really into essentially like an alkaline diet, really trying to understand like how do you put your body in a state where it can heal itself and things like that. So, I mean, it was a couple of years and a lot of energy and time and whatnot, but he, you know, worked his way out. I wasn't alive at the time, so I don't know the exact details of what you know his day-to-day looked like. But, you know, obviously he worked his freaking butt off, came out of that, and then not only wasn't paralyzed anymore, a year later after he like started walking, he became a world champion powerlifter.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, and then he set like a world record for most push-ups in a minute and like did some like crazy stuff like that. And that kind of, so that put him like kind of on the map, like in the world of people being like, holy crap, like look at this guy's story. Like he was legit paralyzed and now he's doing all these things.
World record holder.
Yeah. So then Danny Ainge actually came to him and said, hey, I want to be trained by you. And then, which that's a really cool backstory, I guess. That's something my dad's always taught me is like treat everyone like they're a professional athlete, in the sense of like he was training people who were just like nobody, like no one knew who they were. Right. But he had this like philosophy with his trainers, like we train every person like they're a professional athlete. And the craziest thing was that some of those people started to talk to their friends who happened to be professional athletes, but my dad didn't know that, obviously. How does this person know Danny Ainge? Yeah. They refer Danny Ainge, say, hey, here's this guy, he's and all this stuff. So then all of a sudden there is professional athletes in the room. And then Danny Ainge brought Dan Marley and Charles Barkley, and then all of a sudden they went to the Phoenix Suns and said, hey, we don't want to train with your trainers, we want this guy. Wow. So anyway, so my dad became the first nutritionist ever hired in the NBA.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this was like in the early 90s. And then he had started his own company, training company, that he then started a supplement company and nutrition company. And so then he worked with all these professional athletes. And so that really started to like build his brand and his companies. And so, so essentially in that time frame, he went from, you know, paralyzed, that like is what let him fall in love with nutrition and trying to understand it at a really deep level, to then becoming, you know, a formulator, trainer, working with all these professional athletes. And then his companies, you know, really like grew from there. And, you know, I don't know the exact like revenue numbers of what they were doing, but multiple 8 figures a year companies and stuff. And so, and he had like a couple planes, not like jets, but like
planes,
nice planes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think those are cheap.
No. So anyway, so I mean, he was killing it. It's just doing really well. And then, essentially, I guess if I'm gonna tell a story, I don't know. It's a big story.
Sure, that's fine. We can get like what synopsis? Like if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, I can tell the whole thing, I guess. I mean, when you ask the question, like why have I done these things?
Right.
Why is this important to me? Like, why do I care about being successful?
Right.
This is the culmination of it. I don't know if I could say it in a couple of words. Essentially, my dad's doing really well. His company's doing really well. He had made some poor decisions. He had some affairs. And which is another, I would say, thing that I learned from him, maybe like not in a way of like how he came back from that as well, and just teaching me like the importance of your family first and that balance, even as you start to make it in life. But so he had some affairs. My mom and him got divorced. But then a few years later, my mom came to him and basically told him like that she essentially had like a vision that they needed to put the family back together and get remarried. And so he, first he was kind of like, okay, well, you need to make sure like that's a big, thing to decide. And, obviously we've been through a lot. I want to make sure that you're serious about that. So she actually went to a temple, which, if you know what that is, like, obviously it's just a place for
your
us
LDS,
in our faith. Yeah,
right?
I'm LDS. So in our faith, like just to get clarity and pray and stuff. So she went there to the temple to, get a confirmation, and she felt that, we need to put the family back together. So they got remarried. So it was actually funny. We were in San Diego at the time, me, my brother, and my parents, and we drove home. And on the way, like in Vegas, they got married at this chapel in Vegas.
Of course.
It's kind of a funny situation. But anyway, so they got remarried. And then a little bit later, they decided to go on like a second honeymoon. And it was actually here in Utah, Timpanogos.
Yep.
So me and my brother and my dad had gone to Timpanogos while they were divorced, and we took this cool picture in the spa. My mom was like, I want to go there. And so they went, and actually while they were hiking, my mom slipped and fell, and she fell like, it was a pretty serious fall, and she landed in some trees and stuff, and ended up being okay, but she had broken a bunch of ribs.
Oh, geez.
And so anyway, so it's kind of crazy. They end up getting home, but she was like on a bunch of pain medication and stuff because of her ribs. And anyway, so they were traveling and all that, and they finally got home, and we spent some time with them that night. I remember that night with my mom, and then my dad went to sleep, and my mom couldn't sleep because of her ribs, so she took some sleep medication the doctor had given her, and then she actually went and got in the bath, and she actually ended up falling asleep and drowning in the bath.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so my dad found her the next morning. They took her to the hospital, and she was on life support for a little bit, but there was just nothing they could do, so she passed away. And I was almost 4 at the time. I was 3 at the time. And so, that was a pretty obviously traumatic experience for her.
How old were you?
So I was 3. I was almost 4. I was 3, and then my brother was 5 at the time. Wow. So we're pretty young.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah. It was definitely a crazy experience, but and essentially what ends up happening is all my mom's siblings, my aunts and uncles, they worked for my dad, and they all, the company was doing well, so they were all doing well as well. But about 2 years later, they decided, like, I don't know what they decided, but they wanted more than what they were getting, I guess. And so my dad showed up to work at his office, and they like basically took all the employees, brought all the employees together, and just said, "Hey, we're gonna walk, or you're gonna give us the company." And
oh wow,
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh, mutiny.
Yeah,
jeez.
And so my dad was like, "Well, like I built this from the ground. Like you guys can leave." So they all leave, and there was like literally out of like a ton of employees, there was like 2 or 3 people left, and like they had a full production, like manufacturing, all this stuff going, and so somehow my dad figured that out and got like temps and like all this stuff, like he just figured it out, and they made it, and I guess this is where this story kind of gets a little bit crazy and why I'm sorry, it takes me a second to explain it.
No, you're good. This is wow. You're good.
So anyway, those aunts and uncles, they decided, I don't know. I mean, this is like kind of my opinion, but they essentially went to the police and said, "Hey, we think that this guy killed our sister." They thought my dad did it. And this is 2 years later. So it goes to court, and immediately, like, they look through everything. They're like, they threw it out of court.
Holy shit.
They said there was nothing to it, whatever. Well, then a little bit later, they get a new prosecutor. And the funny thing about it is this prosecutor's actually been disbarred since for malpractice, and a lot of malpractice that happened in this case.
Oh, geez.
But anyway, so they get this new prosecutor. They come back, they reopen the case, and they actually were able to get it to, I guess, kind of open up further and go to a trial. So for about 5 years of my family's life, we were fighting this case. And
constantly fighting, battling with reestablishing the business, the emotional impact that takes, all that. So,
and I mean, lawyers are not cheap. And so, and this was like my dad basically lost focus, didn't lose focus. He had to like direct focus to fighting this case instead of the business. And so we went into a lot of debt, like multiple $1 million in debt. So from one end of the spectrum to the other, sold everything.
Wow.
And then ultimately what ends up happening is my dad was convicted of manslaughter, essentially just saying that he didn't do enough to save my mom. Yeah, and so
holy shit.
There was a moment where when he found her, he called a doctor that lived up the street instead of calling 911, and then he called 911 after. And that is essentially what they convicted him of. Yeah. If you don't, the justice system is a pretty messed up place.
You and me could talk about that forever. Look at what's happening right now with the kid Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah. Look at what happened with a lot of people. The justice system in this country is honestly a game of how much money do you have.
Yeah.
It really is. How much money do you have? How much can you throw at attorneys? You know, how long can you drag things out? How biased is the jury? Yeah. You know, because as much as they try to make the jury unbiased, there is still bias. Yeah. And especially now with social media, it's become the
jury can't not see it.
Exactly. The jury cannot. And so with that, it becomes you're judged in the court of public opinion as opposed to being judged in the case of actual justice.
Yeah. And so this is like, it's actually funny. You could like Google my family and my dad. There's still like blogs that like are active right now talking about it. It's kind of funny, but like a bunch of people don't know who the freak we are talking about us. Yeah, this was early in the time where like blogging became popular. So there's a lot of stuff actually that the prosecutor did, apparently, like, I guess like baiting other like blogs to then like get the jury to, anyway. So
he leveraged social media basically.
Yeah, essentially, like before it was Instagram and Facebook. And so they convicted him of manslaughter. And what I was saying about the justice system was essentially what they do is they want to, it is a public thing or like a social thing. They basically just want to say, well, look at this guy. He had these affairs. He did this. Right. So they just talk about all this other stuff because there's no actual evidence of this.
Oh, I mean, I hate to go back to Kyle Rittenhouse. They were talking about like him playing Call of Duty. They're trying to paint this picture of a bad guy with all these other things.
Loser, whatever. Yep.
Exactly. 4 doors, more whores was his gamer tag. Like, what's the relevance to that in the situation? Just to paint the picture.
Just to make him seem like a crappy guy.
Yeah. You're exactly on point. Yeah.
Yeah. There was multiple people actually in the jury we've spoken to after that literally said, "Oh, we didn't think there was any evidence that he was guilty. We just thought we didn't like the guy." And so it's a pretty, and we could go into that for hours of just the crazy messed up things in the justice system. But anyway, so he gets convicted of manslaughter, essentially saying he didn't do enough to save her. There was no like malicious intent. He obviously didn't like do anything, but like he did get convicted of manslaughter, so he got sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So from the time I was in 6th grade, the start of 6th grade to the end of my sophomore year, my dad was in prison, and the business was left to, he got remarried to my mom Hillary, who I call my mom because she's been there with us basically my whole life, you know, technically my stepmom, but I would never say that just out of respect for just the amazing woman she is. But So, he got remarried. And so my mom was left with this business that she didn't really know how to run. Obviously, like she never ran a business or anything, and millions of dollars of debt. And after the conviction, my family, those aunts and uncles, they also opened up a lawsuit against their family.
What?
Yeah, it's just,
who are these people?
yeah, it's pretty. Anyways, here's the funniest part. Here's like and this is why I'm willing to share this on podcast. This is why when you ask me why I want to be successful, why any of this, like I hope one of them hears this right now, because my why, like I have cars and all that on my like wall, and like I want that. I want to buy a big house for my family, whatever. But like the true why is I want to prove my dad was innocent, and I can't do it with like evidence, but I can do it with, look at the man that he is and what he created in me, and you can't deny it. And I want it to be everywhere. I want it to be on every podcast. I want it to be in their face. I want them to be like, hey, aren't you related to this Braven guy? Right. Don't you know this Braven guy? And them have to sit there and deal with that.
Deal with that.
They abandoned me and my family and all of that. And so
more than abandoned. Let's be honest.
Attacked, yeah.
And dude, can I just say something to this, right? People don't realize how vicious family can be. As a matter of fact, most of the time, I don't say most of the time, if something goes bad with family, it usually turns pretty nasty. And people don't fully understand that. But that's where a lot of the biggest problems end up. And this sounds more than, because you're saying, they turned their back on you. No, they didn't just turn their back on you.
Yeah.
They attacked. They turned their back on. They attacked.
Yeah.
They came after you, and that's in some of the most like seriously, right? Like it's more than just turn their back, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, just keep going.
No, this is cool. And I think when people say like, oh, like money's the root of all evil, I don't believe that in the slightest.
I agree.
But what I do believe, like, and what the scriptures say is like the love of money. If you knew my family, if you knew my dad when we had nothing, would give to people. When we had everything, obviously he still gives to people. If you go on a trip with my family, my dad will pay for you. But with everything, when we had nothing or when we have everything, he's going to take care of you, whatever, right? He's going to give, because it's not the love of money, but I'll show the people who love the money were these family members who were literally willing to burn the relationships, attack us, like do all of this stuff for money. Right. Like that's the evil part of it. It's not.
They wanted the whole business because of money. They wanted all these other things because of money, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So money isn't the root of all evil. It's really this, I don't know. Anyways, I would say maybe it's even the lack of money. If they had money, they probably wouldn't have been attacking us.
Right. That's the thing. Like here, I heard something, and it was the best thing I'd ever heard, because I believe this with my dude. And here's the thing, brother. I knew I didn't actually know this about you. Have we? And for everyone listening to this, did we have this conversation ever? Right? No. I had no idea this about you, but I knew for a fact you've been through shit. You know why I knew that? And I started this podcast with what? I said, you don't become this dude without what?
Stuff.
Without going through some hard ass shit, without pushing through the flames of hell, right? Because in all honesty, you do not become who you want to become. You do not reach this level of success unless you've seen the bottom.
Yep.
Right? You see this award behind me for $10 million, right? Yep. We're about to get the $25 million one, right? And you know why? The whole idea of alpha influence, I don't know if you know this about me, but when I was a kid, I was bullied fucking bad. Right. And it still sits with me today. Like if I still take myself to those moments, I see you getting emotional. I still get emotional. Yeah. And it's the fact of the matter of not only do I want to prove myself right, do I want to make myself proud of who I've become, but I also want to shove it right in their fucking face. I want to be like, you all, and like everyone who's ever doubted me, I want to say, fuck you. Like I'm going to show you, right? And I'm going to show the world what I can become. And that was and just this whole mindset, but also it's the empathy of, I know what it's like to go through some 100%. Shit. And I know that money has a lot to do with that. Yeah. I know most families are torn apart because of money. Your story depicts that pretty fucking well that most families are torn apart because of money. More than 50% of all marriages end in money and because of divorce because of money, right?
And it's not because they have a lot of it. That's the problem.
It's definitely not because they have too much of it, right?
Everyone thinks like, oh, it's like the money's evil. It's like, no, I say this all the time. The people who say money is bad or, oh, you're too worried about money, I promise you they worry about money more than me.
Amen. Like, I agree with that.
They are sitting there, they slave their life away for 40, 50, 60 hours a week doing something they don't love. They're thinking about it all the time. They're stressed about it. They fight their spouses about it. Like they're worried and thinking about it more than I will ever think about it.
Amen.
And they're the one then saying,
yes,
you shouldn't be trying to get all that money.
Right. And you know what? It's crabs in a bucket, man. It's crabs in a bucket. Why would they tell you that? Would they tell you that if you had a $50,000 a year W-2 salary working as an accountant? No, they fucking wouldn't tell you that. You think anyone's going to ever come up to you do that? By the way, if you're an accountant making $50,000 a year, I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. Like,
no, it's cool.
Make more.
Yeah, exactly. Go for it, but the thing is, it's crabs in a bucket. They don't talk shit on you unless they have something that you want.
Yeah.
I believe the root of all jealousy, the root of all hate comes from someone else having something that you want that you don't believe you can have. They're going to tell you shouldn't go after that money because they wish they could have that. And they now just want to virtue signal themselves to say, I'm not after the money. Yep. Be like, why the fuck not? And again, come back to what I was saying. The best thing I've ever heard is people who say money isn't everything just haven't given enough away. Because I've heard the phrase people who say money isn't everything don't know where to shop. Yeah, that's true too. By the way, because I feel a lot of happiness in my Lamborghini.
Yeah, we were talking about someone before, pissed off on the CD. You know what I mean?
Like you can hate me all you want. I'm getting to my Lambo. Yeah. You know, that's my therapy, right? Yeah. And sometimes I like buying shit. You know, it's really enjoyable. I like paying for those tickets to go to Tulum with my wife, right? But at the same time, people don't realize the best thing you could ever do is get a lot of money and turn around and make a difference in the world. Actually make an impact, because as much as we hate it, this world revolves around money. Yep. It revolves around money. So if you want to make an impact, if you want to save the turtles, if you want to, if you hate what's happening to dogs, in the dog pound or whatever, if there's anything you're passionate about, you know what you should do? You should become a badass motherfucker like Braven Grant. Go do something about it. And now you actually have leverage to make that difference. Absolutely. Right? Anyway, so I'm going on a tangent.
Yeah, no. I love that tangent. I remember when I first started being like, whoa, we're going to make some money. There's a difference between there's money on the screen of your business and you're messing with these spreadsheets and then all of a sudden being like, babe, I actually think we might make some money. This is crazy.
I don't think I'm not so worried about the bills all of a sudden.
We're going to actually have some in our pocket. And I remember I literally, this is 6 months ago. This is not that long ago, to be honest, because I've kept everything in the business. I have not paid myself for so long. And, and I remember though, having this almost crisis of my conscience being money's bad, all these thoughts from growing up and religiously and in a small community, all this. And I remember I literally went to one of my leaders in my church and I told him this. I said, I'm having this dilemma, and I was like, I want to make sure that I don't go too far away. And I had even seen this example from my dad, right? And some of the mistakes he had made. And he told me, basically, he was like, look, there's multiple ways to build the kingdom. And it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. I think this principle is so good. He's like, there's multiple ways to build a kingdom. He's like, but a church building down the street is going to cost a heck of a lot of money and someone's got to pay for it.
Someone's got to pay for it.
So he's like, so your way of doing it might be the one paying for the building. And it just flipped a switch. I'm like, dang, I want to build the buildings. Yes. I don't want to be the one putting the brick in. Someone's got to pay for the brick. Right. I want to pay for the brick and all of them.
I mean, I'm LDS, right? Yeah. And anyone who's listening to LDS knows the stories of Joseph Smith and all that stuff, right? And if you're listening to this, just go read about it. Right? But when the Lord, sent people to Joseph, who'd he send?
People with money.
People with money.
Absolutely.
Why did the Lord do that? That's so evil. He sent evil after him? What the hell? Come on, God. Like, what are you thinking? No, he sent people with money.
Because the world works on money. It's, you just can't get over it. So you can either be mad at it and be mad at money for your whole life and think about it your whole life anyways. Right. Or just go get a lot of it and you can do something good with it. You know?
So, okay, so let's pivot back to this. So your dad's going through all this bullshit, right? Yep. You have your family not only turning their back on you, but literally trying to tear you down, because not only did they go after your dad, then they turned around and went after the entire family, which, what the fuck?
Yeah, man.
You know, like seriously?
Yeah.
You know, like, So then they start going after you guys even more. And what happens after that?
Yeah, so they open up a lawsuit against our family. And this is the kicker. This is the funniest part about the whole thing. You know how I started the story? I said they mutiny, tried to take the business.
Yes.
Well, the lawsuit, these years later, the thing on the lawsuit was, which is just a joke because we were like multiple millions of dollars in debt, but it was $50 million and the business. They just wanted the business, man. Yeah. Because like you said, it's the jealousy. I love you. You just said this. Yeah. You said the jealousy comes from seeing someone else who has something and not thinking you can get it.
Yes.
Right? Because like when I see your Lambo, I'm not like, F that guy.
Yeah.
Like frick Jeremiah. Right. Like I'm like, damn, that's freaking dope.
Yes.
I can't wait for a little while out and I'm going to have one.
Right.
Because I'm not like, I can't get one.
Right.
I should just steal Jeremiah's. Right? Like, frick, like I should.
Or if I can't have it, he can't either.
He can't have it either, right?
Or
he must have cheated, or he must have done, or he's in it. Oh, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they just literally don't have the ability.
Right.
It's in them.
It sure it is.
Mentally, something's broken.
Right.
And they don't have the ability.
Victims. They want to play the victim game where you're getting something that they deserve. You know, this whole bullshit play, right? Yep. And dude, by the way, what you just said there, that's how you know someone's a fucking stud, is because if you're not jealous, it's because you know I can do that too, right? Yeah. Like, here's the thing. There's a different sphere. When I'm around multimillionaires and billionaires even, they're happy for my success, even though we're competitors sometimes, 100%, right? 100%. They're happy for my success legitimately. You know why? Because they're sitting going, good for you, man. I know what it's like. Yeah. And guess what? I'm there with you, or I'm going to be there with you. So, oh, dude. Yeah. And we celebrate together in a way. But the people who DM me on Instagram saying you racist pig for driving a Lambo. Either they call me racist for a Lambo, right? But they say things. It's because they want it, but they never believe they can get it.
Yep.
All right, keep going. Sorry, these are great.
No, it's so good. So anyway, so they open up this lawsuit against my family. So now you got to realize we had no more money for lawyers. So my dad's in prison fighting the case for himself, this lawsuit. My mom is trying to help with the lawsuit, running this business that, you know, like when stuff like this happens in your life. Business? Yeah. So my dad owns a supplement company as well. Right. You know, and we can get into that, how I started mine and how that goes together. But so she's running this company, and you find out like who your real friends are when stuff like this happens. Yes. And there were some people who saved us during this time, who business relationships, people who knew our family truly, and who, you know, floated bills for us and helped us, and just incredible people. But there was also some people who were like, we don't want anything to do with you guys. We're out. Yeah. And that was tough. Like, right. Like a lot of the like big name people, you know, and for a lot of reasons, and I don't blame them. Like, you know, they just don't want anything to do with it. And so anyway, so the business is like ultimately failing. Honestly, at this point in my life, seeing the financials of my business, I don't know how my parents were figuring it out, because, you know, my current business is doing more revenue than they were doing, but we have a lot less of the bills. We don't have all the manufacturer, all the stuff they had, and I don't have a whole family to take care of. Like, it just blows my mind. Like, anyways. So my mom's running this business. My dad's in prison fighting his own lawsuit for himself, and the business failing. We're millions of dollars in debt. We lost our house. We lost the building that our business was in. We end up moving with my grandma. And the coolest part about this, though, is that my dad, fighting for himself, we took that lawsuit to like a basically like civil trial, and my dad won. And in civil court, they judged him innocent. So like even his like the manslaughter judgment that he had against him. The judge in the civil court said, no, there's nothing. Like, you're 100% innocent. So that was really cool win for our family. And he did that fighting for himself. Yeah. And so with like no lawyers and stuff. But anyway, so we end up settling that. That actually didn't end up getting settled till years later. I think when I was 18, and finally like we all signed the paper to like settle on this amount and whatever, and that was over with. And so they now have nothing. They can't come after us for anything. They're done. Like really they're screwed. Like they got like,
there might still be a little defamation going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like, you know, they got their like $50,000 from, you know, and whatever. And I'm sure it's gone now. Like that's not going to change your life. So anyways, yeah. So we went through all that. And there's a lot of honestly like blessings that came through this time. You know, it really brought my family super close together. We're like us, like it was like us against the world. It was us against those people who were attacking us. But there was also a lot of like really closeness in the sense of like there was news crews. It was a very high profile thing. So all over our family. And so we were very close together. And we also spent 16 hours a weekend in visitation, sitting around a table like this, talking. Like what family does that? Right. So like every Saturday we would drive 2 hours, sit with my dad for 8 hours, drive home 2 hours, and then Sunday drive 2 hours again, sit for 8 hours and drive home for 2 hours. And so we were literally spending an absurd amount of time together as a family, just sitting, talking, communicating, you know, my dad having real like one-to-one conversations and things that I don't think most families get. So that was a really good experience in that way. I mean, a lot of it sucked, not that it wasn't great by any means, but that part of it was really cool. And so anyways, my dad gets out my sophomore year. And essentially like, again, like we were just like our family against the world, like just building and working. And, you know, a company that had, you know, tons of employees was down to, I think at the time, like there was like 6 of us, including like me and my brother helping like in, you know, manufacturing, bottling, shipping, calling, like stuff. Everything. Just kind of everyone's just trying to get it done. And anyway, but my dad just, you know, got back to work. Like he always says to us, like, we're just going to prove it with our actions. We had opportunities to return lawsuits back to certain people and back to certain lawyers who had messed stuff up, or back to, you know, those family members. I mean, never once has done that, because he's just like, we're going to do what we're going to do. And that's going to prove it. And that's been a huge example for me in my life. And so that's what we did. Like, you know, we started getting to work, and my dad started, at this point, he's paid off all the debt he's ever owed anyone, any family members that, you know, gave us money, or the lawyer fees, all that stuff completely paid off. And we're talking like multi-million in the hole coming out of prison. Right. To then, you know, getting to the point where now he's crushing it. His company's crushing it. And then when, you know, that time when he got out of prison, we didn't really have anything. And so we just like would work out as a family. Like that was like our thing. We just spent so much time like in the gym working out. So that was when me and my brother fell in love with fitness and all of the, you know, this industry that we're in now with supplements and the fitness industry, and started going to expos and stuff like that. And ultimately kind of led to the inspiration and desire to start the company that we started together, and which essentially was, we would buy raw ingredients from my dad and sell them directly to you know, fitness enthusiasts, athletes and stuff. And so we cut out all the middlemen, and we had a really clean whole food ingredients that we were selling directly to the customer, so we could deliver something really good at a really good price. And so it was really cool. We were kind of like able to manipulate the market in a cool way like that. Not manipulate in a bad way, but just take the resources we had and in a cool way. And yeah, so that's kind of how we got to here.
Damn,
a little bit.
Dude.
Sorry, it was a long story.
No. This is like, don't be sorry, because it's a fucking amazing story. For one, it's incredible what you've gone through, right? Because as I'm listening to this, I'm trying to think of this in like being in your shoes, you know? And, you know, all I can think of is, I can't think of exactly how that is because I haven't been through that. All I can think of is how I felt when, you know, it felt like it was the darkest times, right? Yeah. When, you know, family's struggling, when you don't know, like you hear your parents talking about how you don't know if they're going to make it. Yeah. You know, you hear those conversations as a kid, and you're just sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? Yeah. But really, what, I don't know if you're the same way, but my conversation with myself and my head would then go to, what do I need to do to make sure this never happens again?
100%.
It's almost like as a kid, you want to fix it. And now you carry that with you for the rest of your life. And look at what you're doing now. You're like, I'm going to be that guy who makes it happen for my family, makes it happen for other people. And that is taking ownership 100%. Of what you can be, what you can become, right? Now, one thing I want to mention here, a couple things actually, is stallions come from stallions, right? You're a stallion, you're a fucking stud. That comes from somewhere. Obviously, what your dad has been through, what he's accomplished, to continually come back and keep doing it over and over is proof of what the kind of man he is.
Absolutely.
And people don't understand that, right?
100%.
People do not understand that. But if you're able to come back over and over again, come back from paralysis to become a world champion, right? Come back from lawsuits and even prison to then have a multi-million-dollar business again after having done it once before, right? How many people do you think fucking go in a tailspin at that point? You know, drugs and alcohol ruin their life, or suicide, or so many other things, because they don't think they can do it, right? 100%. But then there's the people who believe, I can do this. It's going to be an incredible story, and they're going to tell their story and make it known. That's the person who takes control of history, his own story, right? And what you're saying here is something that I felt, because we're talking about money. We're talking about what you have to go through in order to make money, right? And it's almost like, I had my friend Jimmy Rex on. He said something so powerful. He said, it's almost like the universe knows when you're worthy of something, right? When you're all in. And I love the phrase when they say, in order to become a millionaire, you have to become a man worthy of making millions of dollars. What does that mean? That means you've gone through the hell. You've paid the direct price that is correlated with making millions of dollars. You've been through the shit. You've put through the sacrifice. And now guess what? It's in your DNA. It's who you are. It doesn't matter if we shut down Gains in Bulk. Guess what? You're going to be right back at it again, because you have the skill sets, you have the mentality. That's who you are, and it never, ever goes away. Becoming worthy of making millions and millions of dollars. I mean, I've said this before. Elon Musk is now the richest man in the world. But what people don't understand about that dude, Elon, is he sold his companies, invested every dime back into these other two companies and borrowed money for rent. That move alone shows you that he's worth billions because that kind of mentality.
There was other guys in those sales of those companies who are rich, but they're not on the list because they didn't.
If you sold a company for $100 million, what would you do?
Just start building again.
Okay, you start building again. Do you know how many people would answer that question? Be like, I'm done. And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
It's fine.
But you know what? You start building again. Do you want to build up another $100 million company, or do you want to go, I'm going to invest all of that into two companies to try and make billions of dollars, right? And that's the kind of that's what people don't understand about how important it is for your mindset and who you are, and actually who you have to become in order to achieve that kind of success.
Yeah, right? Well, you just got to ask yourself, like, what does a millionaire's life look like? What does his day look like?
Right.
Is he sleeping in, being lazy? Is he eating whatever he wants, whenever he wants? Is he, like, just ask yourself.
The crypto millionaire might.
Yeah, maybe. And it might look different to everyone, but, like, what does that look like? And then just look at yourself and be like, do I look like a millionaire?
Yes.
If someone was with me all day, every day, would my life look like a millionaire?
Right.
And I often ask myself that question. It's in, like, one of my questions in my journal. It's like, what level of CEO am I? And a lot of times I have to be like, I'm not a worthy CEO of a $100 million company yet. That's I want to have a $1 billion company. I'm not a $1 billion CEO yet because a $1 billion CEO wouldn't do this. He would be doing this. And just, that's all, like, just look at your life, say, what does my day look like? Does it look like a millionaire like day? No? Well, I should probably change some stuff. Do I read a book ever? Do I do anything to try and make an improvement? Or do I just be like, oh, I'm going to make money someday, you know? Like,
well, dude, because even just referencing back to Funnel Hacking Live, right? You know how many people who go to those things over and over again or buy courses and don't actually build their first funnel? They start but don't finish, or they I was surprised to talk to people who had been gummed to the Funnel Hacking Live for 3 years.
Year, and they're like,
that was my first one ever, by the way. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, that was our first one, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to him, like, you haven't built your, what do you mean you haven't built your funnel? Like, if building your funnel is your biggest, like, you understand that a funnel is like a daily basis thing for us. Like building a funnel is like setting up an IG page or like posting. Like
I built like 4 for Black Friday.
Like building a funnel. Like, what do you mean? Do you have any idea how many other things you're gonna have to do with your business besides just a funnel?
Yeah, like actually make a product, sell a product. Like,
good luck.
Be a business.
Get your get your whole software. Dude, there's so many things. So if you're listening to this and you're in Funnel Hacking Live, you haven't built a funnel. Either stop now or just go fucking do it.
Yeah, just
quit giving yourself a time period. Just build it, even if it looks like shit. Put it out there for the world to see that it looks like shit. Congratulations, you built your first funnel. Now adjust, right? Welcome to the life, because my first funnel sucked.
Yeah, right? I should pull up screenshots. Yeah,
I wish I kept those.
I have some nasty looking funnels, and I sell supplements. Like, you got to trust the landing page of a supplement.
Yes.
And I was selling them on the ugliest, sketchiest thing, but it's like, man, you just got to do it.
Let me ask you something, right? Because you're in the fitness industry, but you're not just in the fitness industry, because you do it a little bit differently, right? Because the fitness industry, I mean, dude, we could talk about that industry and how it's a mess, right? It's a big mess. And then how there's, like everyone's got wants to get a supplement line, proteins, creatines, pre-workouts, trend bologna sandwiches. But you're taking at a completely different approach, which probably stems a lot from what your dad talked about. And this is something that's super interesting, because if I kind of look at the medical industry and the fitness industry in a very similar way, in a bad way. Yeah. And what I mean by that is I believe the medical industry is one of the most corrupt industries on the entire fucking planet, 100%. Next to Wall Street.
Yep.
You look at Big Pharma and Wall Street.
I think it's worse, but
I agree. I agree with that, right? The shit they pull, like EpiPens running them through the roof, right? We could go on and on about that. But like Wall Street and the corruption that's in Wall Street and finance and business, right next to Big Pharma, the corruption that lies in those kind of industries. And when I look at fitness industry, I look at the same thing, because I know damn well they're just throwing together these powders and making huge profits on them, right?
And most of the owners have no idea,
right?
No idea. Like,
they don't know.
Yeah, they're business guys or marketers, right? Like,
they go more based off of taste and appearance and how much profit they can get, what's the cost of putting together, as opposed to, is this really what makes a difference? Because what I've been diving into this a lot. Like, I love the carnivore diet, and I know people could debate me on this all the time, but I was listening to a guy, Alex Hormozy, and he talks about how his thoughts on the fitness industry.
Which, by the way, we should just shout out Alex.
Alex Hormozy, we love you, dude. You're literally Hercules.
We need to get him on here.
Oh, we should. Yes, absolutely.
Tag Alex, get him on here.
We'll tag Alex for sure. But he was talking about his thoughts on the fitness, and mostly just diets. Yeah. And I'm sitting here because our entire diet structure has just been based off of a food pyramid that someone put
made
together.
By the dairy farms.
Exactly. So I sit here and look at it, I'm like, all these things that I've learned in my life have been told to me. How much of them are actually true, or how much of them were just put together by a marketing company? Yeah, 100%. And I'm a marketer because I own a business, right? Yeah. So I know exactly. I'm looking at it from back, and I'm like, I kind of get that now. You just throw it together to make the profit, make the sales.
You want to sell one thing more than the other. You talk about the one thing more than the other.
Exactly. So walk me through this, because your supplement line is a lot different, and what you guys focus on is that natural healing. That what really is going to cause, obviously what your dad did to heal from being paralyzed to unparalyzed. Not a small thing, right? So walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that makes us different, but essentially it starts with everything that we do is whole food based. So it comes from actual food, plants, or and everything's not 100%. We're not 100% plant based because we have whey's and stuff like that, but it's all food based. There's nothing synthetic, and a lot of people might say look at the bottle and think it's a natural product or something, but it's a lot deeper than that. And 99% of vitamins on the market are synthetic. So vitamin C for example, if you look at your bottle of vitamin C, flip the label around, you're going to see it says vitamin C as ascorbic acid. It'll be in parentheses as ascorbic acid. Essentially what that means is they made vitamin C out of hydrochloric acid, like the stuff from science class that's burn stuff, and corn syrup.
Good.
So it's they literally they mix them, they ferment them. Emergency, right? It tastes great because it's literally corn syrup mixed with this fermented process of acid and then reduced down to you get ascorbic acid, and it's crazy. And no one talks about that because it's super cheap to make, and every company puts it in there because the margin's ridiculous. Literally, a box of Emergency, if I was to make that product, would probably cost me 45 cents.
Maybe.
Like the one at the store.
Right.
Like maybe.
And most of that's in the cardboard and the packaging.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like
Not
the
even
ink,
into actual,
the ink on the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're selling, because then, they can sell whatever, like $30. But everything that we do comes from whole foods. So our vitamin C product, it comes from acerola cherries and other fruits. Acerola cherries a lot more than like oranges, but there are some oranges and stuff in there too. But comes from the actual foods. And so the importance of that is the body actually knows how to use it and utilize it properly. When you take a synthetic vitamin, in the long run, you end up depleting the body, because what ends up happening is your body goes, oh, this is kind of like vitamin C, but in order to actually use it, we got to kind of get the rest of the pieces. We got to put this all together.
Right.
So it actually takes vitamin C out of like your collagen and stuff like that. And so
your body trying to adapt.
Your
to
body's basically trying to make the synthetic thing work.
That's similar to when you get on like a respirator, or you get on like you're stuck on something so long, your body adapts because it gets this thing coming in and it stops working as much. It's not fighting to build itself back when you cut it off, right? You cut the legs off it basically by supplying it with this synthetic or like this artificial thing that keeps you there. It doesn't build itself back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, because that's basically what you guys talk about. I mean, your dad talked about the self-healing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy story. We're number one with the self-healing, but if we really understood just how incredible our bodies are,
absolutely,
we wouldn't really be so worried about taking pills.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, you and me could talk about weed. We could, because, with your mom, like, who passed away, what was it that she took, you said?
I actually am not sure what the exact drug was. It was a sleeping medication.
Sleeping medication. I know a lot of people who have family members or friends who overdosed on depression medication.
Oh, 100%.
Anxiety medication, Xanax,
yeah, which just makes anxiety worse, by the way. Right.
Exactly, right? You become what's the word I'm looking for here?
Dependent.
Thank you. Dependent on it, right?
And then they got to switch you to another one, switch you to another one. You're just going down this path to keep making it worse. They're not actually fixing. Like, here's the thing. Everyone's been saying COVID. Oh, we don't want to fill up the hospitals, so get vaccinated so you don't have COVID.
Right.
You want to know who fills up the hospitals? Heart disease.
Yes.
Right? That's what fills up the hospitals.
Right.
If they actually were worried about not filling the hospitals, they would stop us from eating cheeseburgers every day.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't care about filling up the hospital. They're trying to actually fill them up. They're saying, come get the vaccine.
Yes.
Come buy our other products and our other solutions.
Keep coming back.
And keep coming back over and over and over. They're not trying to not fill the hospitals.
Right.
They're just trying to fill them up like slowly in the right pace.
Yes.
And
you know why though? Cures are extremely unprofitable.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Legitimate cures are extremely unprofitable. What's very profitable is returning customers, right? And yes, it might help for a sec, and but it generates this returning customer. Why would we cure? Yeah. We could talk about this with cancer, right? Oh my gosh, the cancer industry, right? I know too many people with cancer, but I know a lot of other people who have said, honestly, my body healed itself from cancer once, number one, I fixed it with my own mentality and my diet. My body fought it off, and my exercise and getting enough being out in the sun. And once I got into that, and I'm not saying this, I'm a cure for cancer, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people and a lot of studies between that, but you never hear damn shit about it, right? I've never said that before, damn shit. But you never hear that about it. But what you do hear is about the chemotherapy and the radiation treatments and the harsh treatments that honestly really just suppress it down,
which most people get within 5 years.
Exactly. Then it keeps coming back and keeps inflating like this balloon, right? So what do we do to fix that? Braven, what's the answer to fixing that?
Take on big pharma. Jeez, I don't know, man. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's what I said, like, the body is so powerful. We just need to give it the right nutrients. So, like, at the end of the day, like, I truly believe supplements are supplements. They supplement your lifestyle. Yeah. They shouldn't be the answer, right? Like, if you're trying to like build muscle or lose fat or whatever, like, there's a myriad of things you should do before you start taking supplements. And then let's take a supplement to just improve that and boost that a little bit. Like, for me, my goal, like, with our supplements in our company, like, I just want to help someone get like that little extra edge, like that 1-2% increase, that micro improvement every single day. That's going to make a difference in the long run.
Well, and now someone would think that, like, because everyone's so driven by the immediate result, right? Yeah. That's why we love Tren.
Yeah.
Anyone doesn't know Tren, steroids.
Yeah.
They want that immediate result, right? But what they don't realize is that 1% extra a day is 365% a year.
100%.
And if you have a 365% return a year on your money, you'll become a billionaire very quickly.
Yeah.
And notice I didn't say millionaire. I said billionaire because the compounding effect of getting better 1% every single day is a massive difference. So yes, making a small percent difference can make a huge difference over time. Especially over the course of 6 months to a year, that 1% a day, like you're saying, I don't want to keep going, but that makes a huge difference over the long term. Right?
Yeah, because tomorrow 1% is 1% of 101%.
Right.
And then it's 1% of 102%, 1% of 103%.
Mm-hmm.
So that 1% grows. And anyway, so at the end of the day, our body is so incredibly smart, and we just need to supply it with the right nutrients it needs, right? And a lot of that's going to come from diet. And then, what I believe is when your diet isn't supplying those things, like creatine, for example, in order to get enough to get the performance benefit, you'd have to eat 7 pounds of meat a day. It's just not realistic and not healthy.
I'm down.
Maybe on the carnivore diet, you can get enough protein. You don't need to take it. But, or digestive enzymes is a big thing that we promote and talk about, and I believe in really deeply. And, you don't need them if you're going to eat 80% raw. If you're going to eat fruits and vegetables, 80% of your diet's fruits and vegetables, you don't need plant enzymes. But the problem is most of us eat 80, 90% cooked or processed foods. And so we need to be smart enough and mature enough to supplement those enzymes back in. That's why everyone's lactose, gluten intolerant. They have food allergies to everything. It's just because they can't digest it.
Me, myself included, has gut issues.
Yeah, bro, we gotta get you on the digestive enzymes.
I know, right? You said those to me. But dude, that, I think you made me talk about this in Florida. I feel like everyone I know has some sort of gut health issue. 100%. And I'm like, I don't remember anyone talking about this 10 years ago. No. It's not like, our food has changed that much the last 10 years, but at the same time, why is this now a big thing? And people say discoveries, but what were you?
It's multiple. It really is multiple things, and there's a reason it's bigger today than it was 10 years ago, and a big part of it's genetic modification, GMOs. So gluten, grains gluten, has been so genetically modified. If you think of the molecule of gluten, and in science class, and there's the bars connecting the different molecules. Well, I did too. I failed out of marketing class, actually. It's just the funniest part. I got an actual F in marketing.
Well, we know you.
And then I just left. It's funny. Anyways, that's a whole different story we could go into. But the molecule has been so genetically modified to make it smaller, so you can make more of it, so you can grow more of it. So the molecule that used to be like this, it's just shrunk down. And so our body can't actually break apart those bonds anymore. And so our body literally fights it, and it causes all these problems in the stomach. And so the same thing with lactose, gluten, all these different things. So we've literally genetically modified the foods so much to the point where our bodies literally can't break it down. And that's I'm not plugging my product too much.
Plug the shit out of it, bro.
But there's one specific enzyme in our plant enzymes called, I almost said a toxin, but it's dipeptidyl peptidase. And it is a patented enzyme specifically for breaking down genetically modified.
Can you say that 10 times fast for me?
Dipeptidyl peptidase. But it breaks down, it can break apart those bonds. And so that's a super powerful enzyme for anyone who struggles with gluten or lactose intolerance. And to be honest, everyone does. Everyone has a hard time digesting it. And if you keep abusing your body's enzymes over your life, it just gets worse and worse and worse. That's why we develop a sensitivity. When you were 5, you could drink all the milk you wanted. Why can't you now? Well, it's because you just abused the freaking crap out of your body and those enzymes.
Whole milk, exactly. I was pouring a full glass of milk and drinking milk, and I do it again.
Right, and it's the same process, right? They heat up the milk. They pasteurize it. They boil it, and that destroys the enzymes. It kills it. If you're drinking raw milk out of a cow, you have no problems. Anyone lactose intolerant, I'm telling you, they literally 99% of those people could go get a glass of milk right out of a cow, and they would be totally fine because it's raw, it has those enzymes. But we cook it, we heat it, we destroy it, and so we need help digesting that
You'd
stuff.
love my sister because she's big on all the raw milk and all the natural stuff. And she's sticking, garlic in her ear to help your,
Anyway, so,
but dude, plug the shit out of it. I'll plug it for you. Everyone go follow Gains in Bulk on Instagram. Go look at his supplement. Obviously, you look at his physique, right? But obviously, we all know that there's some shit happening. We were just talking about testosterone. I believe every man in this country is going to need some form of testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, here, if not now, here and soon. Why? Because the fucking shit we eat, I believe it stems from the food.
Absolutely.
And our hormones off balance. Like, dude, I played D1 football, right? I was playing college football, working out since I was like fucking 11, bro. Like, I've been working on my entire life. I'm not a wee lad. Like, I'm, you know, I'm like, you know, but I was shocked because I was really feeling like shit. And I was shocked when I went and got my testosterone checked. I'm like, and he says, yeah, you're crazy low. Like, what do you mean crazy low? He's like you're like lower than a natural scale low. I'm like, on testosterone? You know, I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I love having sex.
But he broke that down for me. And I was shocked. He's like, you'd be shocked at how many men are struggling with testosterone. And I've been diving into this more and more. That's why I love the idea of like, that's why I've been diving into the idea of like, you should eat more meat because it spikes your testosterone because it's going to be a little bit more raw. It's like a little more like what you're meant to eat as a human being, a little more carnivorous, right? Instead of all this processed stuff, you know, stuff like that, right? But with testosterone and hormones being so off balance, why is everyone getting their thyroids checked? Why is everyone, you know, like trying to figure out how to boost their testosterone? Because testosterone is lower than it's ever been. Back in the 1950s, testosterone was in the higher end of the spectrum. And now it's lower today. Why is that? I know we can come up with a lot of reasons why, but there's obviously some serious fucking issues going on, right?
100%.
Dude, like I could talk about this all the time. I mean, the justice system. And you know, like I don't know how deep you go into political stuff, right? But you know, you're talking about the justice system, you're talking about the medical field. We're talking about, because you're an entrepreneur, we're talking about, you know, business. There is a lot of corruption 100%. At the highest levels in this country, in this world, right? But what I believe is going to make the biggest difference is dudes like you, right? Dudes like me, dudes like entrepreneurs who see what's wrong and are willing to go out there and make a difference. And guess what? You can't do that unless you have some form of influence, whether you have a large following, whether you have a lot of money. Everyone's sending their thoughts and prayers and tweets. And you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to call for people like you to stand up and make a difference in this world, to actually say, this can be done, and I'm going to be the one who takes the initiative to say, I'm going to go do it.
100%.
That's the definition of an entrepreneur. Sees something wrong, and instead of saying like, man, someone should really do something. Really? I mean, how many people say, man, I wish someone would make a product that's this. I know I've said it because I say it because I don't want to go do that product. You know, I'll be like, I wish there was a product like this. But I'm not going to do it, right? But that's a problem. Everyone sees all these issues and they say, I wish someone would do something about it. The entrepreneur says, that's me, motherfucker. I'm going to go make something happen. And what you're doing and what you've accomplished, dude, it's incredible to see what you've accomplished at such a fucking young age. I'm so excited to see where you're going to be, you know, the next 5-10 years, right? But dude, everything you've been through, everything accomplished, dude, congratulations, man. There's one thing you want to leave our listeners with. What would it be, bro?
Oh man. Which thank you. This has been super fun. Totally off the cuff too, like nothing planned. So I really appreciate that. I mean, if there's one thing, I think we said it a couple times, and this is like, just start. Like I look at anyone, man. I just saw a video last night of The Rock. He posted, and it was his first time in WWE ring.
Oh yeah, when he looked like a pineapple head.
Yeah, dude, he looked kind of like goofy. He had that for the hair. But the Rock in WWE ring for the first time, and I sat there and I rewatched the video like 5 times. I just thought, man, look where this guy's come from. And he started in, you know, WWE is cool, but like that's not like the platform to be. Like, dude, the guy's gonna be freaking president of the United States. Like, you heard it here first. But so I'm watching The Rock in WWE first one. Now he's the highest paid actor in the world. He's got all these companies, all this stuff. And I just thought, man, if people would just get started. And I was like, I feel so lucky to have just started on the path. Because I'm like, man, I'm not gonna quit. At all. And where's that going to be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? What rooms am I going to be in? What people are going to be able to be around? What type of influence am I going to be able to have an impact in the world and actually make an actual difference, not just complain on Instagram or in the comments, like actually make a difference. And so like what I would say is like, just get started, and it might not look like the way you want. Like you might not have a cool office like this. You might not have a cool podcast room or a Lambo or whatever, but like if you just get started, get in the game, like get in the game start finding people to network with, get close to, man, like what starts to happen in years. I mean, like I get that I'm only 23, but I also started the company when I was 17, and I really started doing this.
You started
when I was
before
like
that
12,
because,
like
exactly,
13,
right,
like being in it, being a part of it. So it's
that's a good point.
Like I'm 5, arguably 10 years in.
Wow.
And you're not going to get anywhere if you don't just get in the game. So I would just say get started. Like don't worry about where the place you're starting from. Like it's amazing where you can get to when you just get in the game and start playing and play to win every day.
That's gold, brother. Dude, thanks for coming on, man. Everyone go follow this guy on Instagram, Braven, BRAVEN_Grant. We'll link all this again on the descriptions, Braven Grant, and also go follow his company, Gains in Bulk, and make sure you go try it, right? Because what he's talking about, if you guys listen to this, I know for a fact you've been feeling the same shit. I know because everyone I talk to feels the same way, right? 100%. So make sure you go follow this guy anywhere else people can get a hold of you.
Man, shoot me a DM. Honestly, like I'm pretty active on social, so love to
shoot him a DM. Tell him I sent you so I can get my referral code.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely, appreciate it, man.